Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the August 13th meeting of the Nashville Fair Board of Commissioners. I will begin by reading our legal notice. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Metropolitan Fair Board of Commissioners today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. My name is Jasper Hendricks, and I will call this meeting to order. Our first order of business will, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and the minutes have been approved. Our next order of business will be a public comment period. No one has signed up to participate, but if there's anyone at this time that did not get a chance to sign up for public comment, please approach the microphone. Seeing none, we'll move on to our monthly informational reports, starting with our campus partners. And let's start with, I guess, Geodis in Nashville soccer.
Thank you. There's a little bit of an echo, so I'm going to try to ignore that. Good afternoon. On the soccer side, is there anyone? It's really bad. Okay. That's much better. Thank you. On the soccer side, so we just completed the Leagues Cup tournament. So unfortunately, we were out of the Leagues Cup tournament. We've got a little bit of lull for the next soccer match. Our next home match is August 24th at Geodis Park. And we did announce our head coach. We have a new head coach who started late last month. On the non-soccer side, we had a 5K last month, about almost 1,000 runners. It was great. It was our Dash of the Castle night run, so that was a huge success. We do have the upcoming concert, Green Day, on August 30th. With the busy schedule here on the campus, we have challenges with parking lot accessibility. So last year, we remitted about $32,000 net in parking revenue. This year, we're already down one lot, which is lot 1. So that's at least $10,000 of revenue that we won't remit to the fairgrounds because the lot's not available. So there will be some parking revenue coming into the fairgrounds, but with the challenging schedule, it won't be as much parking revenue this year from Green Day, and that's the only concert we have. So hopefully that makes sense. And then also the community benefits annual report was sent out to this group. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer those. And then tomorrow we have a public meeting with the tour starting at 5 o'clock at 445 Park Commons, and then the public meeting in the WeHo Club, and that's the community advisory committee for the CBA. And I think that was all I had. Any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Hartley.
Thank you. Number one, thank you so much, Lindsay, for the report. It's always helpful to know what's happening with our tenants on campus and that everybody's doing well. We may touch on it on Dirk's report between y'all, but just wanted to see with some people moving in, how's that gone? Have you guys had any discussions with tenants or any issues? And if you want to defer to Dirk, that's fine, but I just want to see if you had any point of view.
I'm going to defer to Dirk because I'm not sure anybody's actually moved in yet.
Oh, okay.
Or they have.
My
Okay,
bad.
yes. So we didn't even notice because it's going so well.
They've been quiet.
Yes.
Second question is, I'm assuming the parking lots are unavailable because of the fair load-in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. Last year, we did have about $32,000 that we sent to the fairgrounds net. This year, it will be significantly less because we only have one concert, but also we're limited on the number of parking lots we have access to.
And one last question. The Community Advisory Committee meeting, is that at 8 o'clock tomorrow?
No, it starts at 6:15.
6:15. Thank you.
So WeHo Club, 6:15. Parking is in lot 10.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Thanks. Next, I guess, Dirk.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Director Womack. Nice to be with you here this afternoon. So, as Lindsay said, we've got a new building that's open now across the street. We started moving in our first residence on Thursday of last week, and we're about 15% of the 335 units are pre-leased, and we're moving in about 6 people a day right now. And so we had a really terrific Thursday, Friday last week, and it was a great test case for how the building was put together and the access and everything about the way that part of the campus is working, because there's actually a speedway race at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. We had people in the building in units facing that direction, and they couldn't hear a thing, which is a slight exaggeration, but it was actually really, really good. We had one resident take a nap during the race, so it worked out well. And so we're moving in, folks, as we speak. We'll probably be doing about 20 or so move-ins a month through the balance of probably the fourth quarter of next year. So it's going to be a process. In the meantime, we're busy finishing up the periphery of the project. We've accepted the top 3 floors. We'll be doing 3, 2, and 1 in the next 2 months to be able to accept those residences, and then all the ancillary areas around to all directions. The west promenade, or east promenade rather, between Geodis Park and the building is essentially done, and everything else is in progress. So Fair Park, Coliseum Way, and then the small area between our building and the parking garage are all underway, substantially complete in some areas, but over the next couple months, those will all get buttoned up, and we're eager to do that because that'll set the stage for some of the commercial retail space we want to open on those 2 sides of the building. We do have a coffee shop opening in concert with a leasing office in about 2 weeks, and so whether you want to come tomorrow with the tours we're setting up then, or we schedule something special for the commissioners, we'd love to do that. And so the building will continue to become more complete and activated over the next few weeks as we welcome new residents into the area. Aside from that, we continue to be active in the planning for the next phase of the project, since our pre-lease effort and our lease up so far has gone better than expected. And so we're eager to work with Commissioner Womack to establish which of the blocks will go next and work on parking logistics as the campus becomes more active with more events. And so looking forward to working with our campus partners on that. So with that, I'll take any questions. Sir? Oh, terrific. Our affordable and workforce units are right in line with the market rate units in terms of lease up. So I think right now we have 20. I'm sorry about that. So right now we have, I think, 27 of the affordable and workforce units pre-leased. So the take-up on that has been really great, and we're so fortunate that the word about the project had gotten out in a really good way to all the campus partners, employers, other stakeholders in the community have been really supportive in making sure everybody knows about that opportunity. So we're very appreciative of that.
Dirk, do you have any update on the, I can't remember what we call it, the micro creator space, the sort of maker space down there on the first floor? What's the latest on that? Oh, sure. The micro business incubator, as we call it, is in progress. We're trying to figure out at this point with a couple non-for-profit partners that we like to work with the programming, design, and build out of the space, and then identifying the members of the community that space is going to serve. And so, frankly, up to this point, we've been kind of laser focused on getting the building open so that we can welcome our new residents. But that continues to be a priority for us, and I think that on that side of the building is very prominent space. I think it's going to be a really attractive amenity for the community. Yeah.
And then I have a question about move-in and the upcoming fair. Do you see any potential, like how is that happening? Because it's going to be, 2 weeks? We have 2 weeks. The fair is going to be 2 weeks. So do you foresee any difficulties there moving people in?
Yeah, great question. I think, similar to the way the construction worked over the past 2 years with the divisional fair here on the campus, the impact, frankly, to the building and then on, the fair operations It's probably going to be easier to coordinate because we're only dealing with like U-Haul trucks and people moving into the building. Before we had massive equipment that had to be coordinated and limited access. So but we actually think it's going to go a little bit smoother than it has in the past. But that's obviously going to require a lot of coordination with the campus partners to make sure that that's a reality.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next up, I guess we can go with Ed and Bob. Which one? Either one. All right.
Ed and I will be giving you an update on the capital projects. So thanks for having us here this afternoon. It's good. Fair Park Phase 2. So we've got the entry upgrades, the gates and the bollards, all that's installed. We're just waiting for the striping. That's right out front here. So as soon as that's done, that'll complete that contract. On infrastructure part 2, we've got the 3 different components. So Windgrove intersection, we're continuing with our permitting and budgeting. We're doing a lot of coordinating with WEGO and NDOT on the participation and the MOU. And then as Dirk alluded to or was trying to mention up there, Fair Plaza Speedway Alley, which is the 3rd component of infrastructure part 2, which is up there in between the Speedway and mixed use. Absolutely going to be, it's going to be absolutely wonderful, knockout. Everything I'm seeing up there from a design perspective and a construction perspective, it's going to be a great, great addition to the fairgrounds. I just wanted to kind of get that out there for everybody. Just to highlight a couple of the additional projects that we've just completed so that we can keep track of everything going on. We got the Expo Arena slab, which was completed. That's doing well, holding up well. Everything's good there. The maintenance building exterior, we just did the punch list on that, so everything checked out there. That's looking really, really good. The Lot 2 survey, which is right over here, right across from the arch, sandwiched in between the art sculpture and 50 Forward. So we got the initial design on that. We kind of looked at it. Laura and her team looked at it. Scott looked at it. So we've gotten feedback to the engineers on that. So they're going to revise everything there. And then we're going to go ahead and move that into permitting. The newly sodded areas out here are taking off really, really nice. I hope everybody can see that right there. So that's good to see. And then next week, we do have a scheduled to do all the concrete work around the art and sculpture. And so we'll just be pulling everything away after we complete that, and we'll be out of there with the sculpture. And so that'll be completed. So there's a lot of little pieces coming together all around the campus. It's all coming together nice. We're getting a lot of a great collaboration with the metro departments and stuff like that. And right now, everything seems to be operating well at the fairgrounds on the daily basis. Any questions?
Commissioner Hartley.
Remind me on the 54, the lot between 54 and the sculpture here, is that where we were looking at doing a big retaining wall to increase the basic square footage of it? Okay. I'm going to take her head nod as a yes. Anything to add?
No, it's going to go up because we're going to kind of flatten it out in that area. So we're going to maximize the 2% grade in that area. So yeah, we'll have more of that retaining wall that'll come around.
Okay. And I don't know why I took this job on this commission because I'm terrible with logistics. This is probably the worst commission for me. But just timing, did you say, so the sculpture's in like the next week or two, is that going to be ahead of the fair? Or what's our status on that?
Yeah. Did you want me to?
I'm making it hard for y'all. I'm looking at both of you, so sorry.
Oh no, so we're planning on pouring that out next week. So that's gonna be somewhat of a what they call a continuous pour. We're gonna get the slab down, then they're gonna go ahead and put some benching in, so out of concrete. We're trying to get that done next week so we can get out of the way. I think they're gonna start setting up the following week for the fair.
Other questions? Nope, that's it. All right, thank you.
All right. Ed here will give us an update on some of the numbers.
Yes. Well, good afternoon, commissioners, staff, council. It's been a little while since I've been in front of you, but really glad to be here. I will give my typical caveat. So if you haven't heard it before, this is a good starter. You should have documents in front of you that highlight the segmentations of the budget. It aligns with the way that it was broken out in presentation by David. The numbers, though, I will say are roughly 45 to 60 days in arrears. And so when you look at the work that's happening out on the campus. We do have, a little bit of lag time in terms of invoice review, submission, and payment. And so that's the reason why when we seem a lot further along on certain areas, the dollars just need to catch up in that space. But I will start particularly in the expo and improvement section. For a long time, I've come up here for a few months successively saying that as we've kind of got to where all of those line items are at 99.99%, our contingency that was allocated for that project would start to slowly decrease, and you would see that FF&E line item increase and to allow for some more capacity there. That has always been the plan for the expo, and so you're just starting to see that actually come into play now. And so I think fencing and gating and some staging was the most recent purchases there, and you'll see that there's some funds left there as well as the remaining contingency to allocate. So, it's nice to follow David and say that we're in good shape on budget after the report that he gave, and I feel really, really good about that. Didn't say much about the expo, but again, FF&E purchases are still happening. Fair Park, Phase 2, if there are no questions about the expo space. By and large, have gotten to where you all can see and actively walk through the space. A lot of our team members actually took the nice weather as an opportunity to do so. There are funds still allocated for the Fair Park. A lot of the work that we'll probably see come in the next couple of weeks will be, or a lot of the bills we'll see come in the next couple of weeks will be related to landscaping and some of the work that's been taking place around the entry. But by and large, the lion's share of the work has been completed there. And then infrastructure, I won't echo David too much, but all of the work that's been happening at Speedway Plaza has been primarily the area where you've seen dollars spent from a construction standpoint. As we started to get through design, again, as Laura and her staff had a chance to review more design materials, the design for those things have progressed. So you've seen the design billing and that line item increase. You'll start to see the construction line item become activated and start to really ramp up here in the next couple of weeks and months. Any questions?
Yes.
One question, the FF&E, that basically we're getting the money back from the contingency, it can go to FF&E. Does Laura make those calls, or how do we decide what those purchases are, or are they already pre-selected?
Yeah, so at this point, a lot of them early on in the project were kind of pre-selected. They kind of were operationally focused, but now that's done in collaboration with Laura and her team. They kind of got that, and so it's essentially a fund that's allocated for that. And Laura and her team had to wait a long time for it, and appropriately so. Now they get to spend it as they see fit. And
just as a follow-up, if you don't mind, Jasper, is Laura, what are your priorities for that money, and sort of where are we going with that money?
So it's been so far supporting some of our rental items that have become obsolete. We replaced our staging to do indoor-outdoor version, and our existing staging was borderline unsafe. So in order to support the fair and other rentals, so what we're trying to make good decisions that we can earn our money back through rental fees that support the Nashville Fair, plus our flea market and our expo events. So a lot of the decisions we are making are things that either we can generate revenue from, or to purchase tools or equipment that are eligible for capital funding that help make our job more efficient.
That's it. Thank you. So, Bob, you're up next.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Just a quick update for mine on the racetrack and our events, and then I'll take some questions if you want. We had an event Saturday night, themed it a back-to-school night. Did some things for the kids, involved some schools, and then we also collected some supplies to give some schools. So we're just working real hard on community involvement right now to finish the year up. And we have 2 events left, October 5th, and then our end of the year, the end of October, our All-American 400. October 5th will be a Cancer Society night. We'll work on that. So things like that we're really working on. I was glad to hear about the noise. We've obviously put a lot of time into the muffler program and what have you. And then Saturday night we were done fairly early again. So we think we're on a good roll with that and feel good about our schedules and our times. So that's how we're working right now. And again, it was a pretty good night Saturday night with the back to school and the events that we were going against. And we call it mid to late summer. You know, sometimes some of our cars have been racing all summer and a couple of them are broke. But now in the fall, it tends to pick back up. So we got left for two more events.
All right, questions?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, let's hear about the fair.
Well, fair is in the air. I know in Tennessee we've started a few months ago with fairs, and I'm glad to see it cooled off. Of course, coming up here September 6th, be kicking off ours. So you have a cup in front of you that has some badges. If there's something misspelled or if we left somebody out, make sure you get with Laura, myself. We'll make some more badges for you. There are some key dates on the back of your personal badge. The first is our opening ceremonies and ice cream social, which is on September the 6th. We start the ice cream social at 6 o'clock. We have opening ceremonies at 6:45. The mayor will be in attendance. He is confirmed for that. Of course, we also on the Monday, the 9th, we have the 4-H leadership dinner, which if you'd like to attend, just get with myself or Laura. That'll be over in the arena over there. We'll have a dinner, and they have a program for that night, raises money for the Davidson County 4-H youth groups. Then also, we're lucky to have the art dedication, which I know Laura may talk about that in a little bit, but it falls during the fair, which is on Thursday, the 12th of September. I think it's at 6:30. 6:30 it starts, and I think the mayor is in attendance for that. So we'd definitely love to have you out. Love to have you out here all 10 days of the fair. We are excited. A lot of great times planned, got a lot of work ahead of us, but everything's coming together. We're excited to have new grass on our courtyard. It's looking good out there. We're really excited about that this year. We're excited about adding our kids area with the rides. We've worked with the carnival, and I think that we'll be able to move the kiddie rides, some of those up above the courtyard to give us a little more space on the midway and separation of the little rides with more adult and thrill rides. But all in all, it'll be here before you know it. We just got to, if you got a good word with the weatherman, just 10 days of beautiful weather is what we're looking for. So.
You may have said this, and I was reading the badges, but on the website it has a list of the activities for each day.
It will. It's being updated as we speak. We're still working on some things on contract-wise to get finalized, but the general, the bands as far as that, we'll have that all updated probably midweek of next week, and that'll be all finalized and can be able to publish that. We do have all of our ground acts already on the website up, so that's already there. And then we'll have some of our shows that are ticketed that's in the arena. We usually put those on sale roughly about next week, about 3 weeks out. We overlap so much with other fairs right now advertising, so our advertising campaign will start usually on that Sunday, Monday, August 26th. So it gives us 2 full weeks of radio, TV ads. We're already running social media, those posts, but they ramp up closer to the fair. Historically, even with working with Noise New Media, and they work with plenty of other fairs across the country, like advanced ticket sales, it's always that last 2 weeks push is where the majority of the traffic comes. But we're updating that as we speak daily, so.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jasper, I did have one question, and
yes,
we may have had this before, and I just don't have it in front of me. Do we have, like, what are our success metrics for the fair? Do we have something written out that, like, we're looking for, like, revenue positive, this many attendees? I can't remember if we have that or not. But if not, I think maybe something to think about for moving into next year. But just wanted to, and if we do, I just may have forgotten, but wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that.
One thing that we talking about success measures, of course, you want growth, and you want growth at ticket gate, ride revenue. Those are really good indicators of not just basically attendees, but the per caps, how much people spend while they're here. Last year, off the top of my head, I think our attendance was up in the mid-20s at the gate, and I think our ride revenue was up 31 or 2%. Now, that's great. We came off of a 2-year not having a fair on this site in 2020 or 21. So ultimately, we started fresh over, rebranding, still trying to get everyone to realize, fight that. I thought the fair moved. So that's uphill battle. But as we grow, I like the 8 to 12% growth is kind of where what I would feel a very success on basically attendance and ride growth is what I would like to see.
And as far as the activities this year, is there a certain demographic that things will be sort of geared towards? So I think the first year was like youth rides and. Yeah.
As far as, our programming, like on our courtyard stage, we partner with Festival of Nations. So Jerry comes in, and on the weekends, we'll ultimately have a multicultural days. They do a great job with the Festival of Nations. We also work with El Jefe, a local radio station, and they do a fiesta day on the first Sunday, which is really good. We moved it from the last Sunday to the first Sunday, which increased those numbers, and we still sustained the last Sunday number. So we didn't lose any ground on our last day of the fair, which was a really, it shocked me a little bit. I thought we would have lost a little attendance moving their event. But the rides, hopefully, as the footprint, construction, moving some of the kid rides here, we'd like to get bigger rides. The carnival contract is up this year. This is the third year, and that was an emergency contract because we needed to have a baseline to be able to have a ride gross to be able to present to carnivals to be able to say, hey, this is where we're at, and we would love to have you solicit and be a part of our, fair. So we are planning to have a carnival bid meeting here during the fair so they can come. Anybody that's interested in providing rides can come to the fair, look at the footprint, ask questions, and have a pre-bid meeting here.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that's it for those reports as we'll move on next to the executive director's report.
All right. I was going to mention, and Scott already did, the RFP for our midway. We're working through procurement on that, and Anthony has graciously volunteered to be the board rep for that solicitation. So thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. And our second RFP that we have in the queue right now is pouring rights. So this is, I sent you a little bit of information on it on email. This is, we're at the end of our 5-year contract with Pepsi. We are going to be soliciting that through procurement along with Metro Parks and Municipal Auditorium. It's pretty straightforward as far as just what product we use here, and usually we get some sponsorship dollars and such that we're still tweaking of what maybe we ask for potential bidders to consider in a bid, but that should be pretty straightforward. The other thing that we are working on is the strategic plan. That is one of my goals for this year, is to really get that wrapped up. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we will be bringing something to the board for discussion purposes to help guide that process. What I've done so far is I've met with the Office for Performance Management at the mayor's office. They've been extremely helpful. I've met with them once in an introductory meeting, and then I've got another meeting Friday with them, as well as Diego. Commissioner Aguarte has volunteered to be a board rep for that strategic planning process, so I've also met with him. And so we're going to be kind of working as a group to really fine tune and get something in front of you sooner than later so that you can, again, help guide that process. The leadership dinner was mentioned by Scott. We've kind of sent that out to some partners as well to help support 4-H. That's a really important group that we work with during the fair. It's all about agricultural education for our students. So I'm going to encourage everybody to attend that. And then also we do continue our support for the Tennessee State Fair. And we're going to be at the ham breakfast on Monday. So just, that invite, if anybody does want to come to that, you have received the invite. Scott and I got a table for that. So happy to have you join us for the ham breakfast. That's it.
All right. So, any questions? Yes. All right, next is finance report.
Hello, everyone. The financial information presented today is preliminary, and our revenues and expenses for June and July of 2024 may not have been recorded to the ledgers as of August 12, 2024, when these reports were created. So I'm going to start with June 2024. I want to remind the board that the books for FY24 do not officially close until around December. So these are still preliminary numbers, but it will give you an idea of how we ended the last fiscal year. So the revenues for June 2024 are approximately $3.5 million, which is a 12% increase compared to FY23. You'll see the other financing sources of about $1.4 million, which is a 41% decrease compared to FY23. That is our subsidy. Expenses are around $4.2 million, which is 6% higher than FY23. That is mainly due to we had a lot of repairs in 2024. We had to replace water heater, and we had speedway lights and restroom and HVAC, and so we're up slightly in expenses, resulting in a net gain of roughly $771,780. Depreciation expense is $1 million, a little over $1 million. So the total net loss is roughly $300,000 is roughly the total net loss. Below you will find the itemized list of our revenues and expenses. Our top 3 revenue sources is our flea market, corporate sales events, and divisional fair. This is excluding the subsidy. Flea market revenue is roughly $1,991,300, which is 30% of our total revenue earned. Corporate sales events is around $1.3 million, which represents 37%. Divisional fair is $740,992, which is 21% of our total revenue earned. So if you add in the subsidy, then the percentages change. So if you add in the subsidy is 28% of revenue collected. Flea market is 22%, and corporate sales events is 27%. I would like to mention that flea market, track, divisional fair exceeded our revenue estimates for FY24. Our top 3 expenses are payroll, utilities, purchase services. Payroll expense is approximately $1.7 million, which represents 42% of our total expenses. Utilities expense is $489,500, which is roughly 12%. Purchase service expense is roughly $855,900, which is 20%. Just a reminder, purchase service expense, things like entertainment, other repairs and maintenance, things of that nature. Are there any questions before I move to FY25?
Well, my main question is going to be just about I mean, obviously we're seeing improvement over time. I mean, we can wait. I'll hold that question until 25.
All right. We'll move to 2025. So with 2025, the report looks a bit different. It's a high-level report because the budget has not been uploaded into our 12 yet, which is our accounting system. So this is very high level. At the very beginning, it looks the same as prior reports. It shows the revenue expenses for current year to date and then prior year to date. So our revenues through July 2024 is $185,755, with expenses being $174,680, giving us a gain of $11,075. In the next section, you will see our budget annualized. So it's showing the budget for the entire year by division. So you'll see flea market, corporate sales events, division fair, and contracts. You'll see their revenue and expenses. In the past, I wasn't able to do that because all of the monies were in 2 business units, and that was corporate sales and divisional fair. Now we have broken them out so that we can have a better picture of what things look like. So I want to let you guys know that when we reallocated resources, we removed $1.3 million in revenue from corporate sales and reallocated it. And we reallocated $2 million in expenses. So those reallocations is what makes up flea market's budget and contract budget as well. Okay. You will see with our annualized budget that many of the divisions are in a deficit, right? I would like to inform you all that concessions for flea market and corporate sales, the revenue for that is not included here because we did not have a concessionaire at the time. So we did not build in any type of revenue projection for it. Once we get a concessionaire, we get them in place, we'll have a baseline to know how to proceed going forward. So let's deal with divisional fair. We see that that's $1.1 million deficit there. I want to just let you guys know that $560,000 of admin was allocated to fair, meaning overhead, utilities, salaries, repair and maintenance, that was allocated to fair. So in the past, that was not the case. Everything was just in corporate sales. So fair, you didn't really get to see any overhead costs or what we would call indirect costs associated with the fair. Now you can see what it looks like. If we move down to the next 2 sections, is revenue by division and revenue by division and expense by division. And pretty much it's the 1/12 of the budget shown. Before, we showed an annualized budget and a year to date when it came to expenses or revenue. And that's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. In this way, we're comparing apples to apples. You can see the budget progress as year-to-date actuals progress, and you can compare them and see where we stack up. So if you look at fair market revenue at this time, you will see that it's $70,600 in the deficit. All revenue hasn't posted yet. We have about $45,000 of revenue that hasn't posted. With that being said, it'll still be in the red, but flea market tends to be slower in the summer months. So that is customary for it to be in the red there. Corporate sales is $23,000 in the good. Divisional fair is $52,900 in the bad or in the red. We know why. Fair hasn't started. So in September, we will see more money in the fair's revenue side. contracts, it's about $20,000 in the red in as far as revenue is concerned. And the reason being is because ground lease is the biggest revenue generator in contracts, and we don't get that money until January 1st, 2025. So if we move down to expenses by division, then you see that we are within budget for this period as far as expenses are concerned, which is again typical. We stay within our expense budget year after year after year. So are there any questions? Oh, it's hard.
No, thank you so much. This is a great overview. Number one, let's just take a moment and this is what we needed to do. You needed to do this because this is how you're going to be able to see what is actually profitable, not profitable, where you need to figure that out. So it's a lot of work. Thank y'all for doing it. All right. So a couple questions. One, and you may have, some of this you may have said before, just remind me, how do we define, the flea market is a flea market program, the divisional fair is the divisional fair program, corporate sales events is all the other third-party events. Remind me what's in contracts. You mentioned the ground lease. What's in there?
Ground lease, racing contract, the sponsorship for Pepsi is in there. Lamar.
And that's like a campus-wide kind of sponsorship. Okay.
Yes. Lamar advertising sales is in there. Parking only for racing. Well, it's an offset. So you remember the ground lease is offset by the parking revenue. So it's not really additional yet until it meets a certain threshold, and the threshold is 200,000. So you won't see an increase. It'll just offset the parking. Meaning, if we make $50,000 in parking from Geodis, we're only going to get $150,000 in ground lease
until we get to 200,000.
Yes.
Okay. But then to answer the question, at that point, Commissioner Hendricks is right that
Yes.
will show up here. Okay.
Yes.
So campus sponsorship adds ground lease, racing program, and the ground lease. Just remind me, we're talking about that's the revenue stream from the leasing of mixed use. Excuse me. Thank you. Where will we see the money coming that's streaming off the tax receipts? Will that come outside of our budget completely?
Yes.
Because that's going to be in a capital campaign
Yes.
that's separate. Okay. I'm just going to keep going, Jeff, if that's all right. So you added $560K in overhead to the divisional fair. So I guess it's more of a question of, obviously, you guys spent a lot of time on this. You thought about how to allocate it and decided that was the right allocation. Is there any learning from that? Have we thought about it? What's the learnings? Because right now, obviously, and I give a lot of credit to Scott, and we're getting a fair going. We're in a loss-leading position right now trying to bring this back, but we're $1.2 million negative right now. So what did we learn overall and also directly about the overhead piece? That could be for you, Laura, or Cetrice.
For me, when I did the exercise, it shocked me because I didn't think that the overhead piece was going to bring the fair into that type of deficit, right? Before, the deficits were about even, right? Without the overhead being allocated, it was maybe like 400,000, 600,000, like that. But with that being spread across, it really shows that when you allocate overhead, the sharing of the cost, it really shows you where you're profitable, where you're not, and how to make decisions. So for me, you can't just not do that.
Right.
And that would be tweaked.
Yeah.
That would be tweaked because what we did was we allocated our salaries, right, across board, whereas it wasn't that way. And we did it by hours worked toward the fair, toward corporate sales, toward flea market. So that made a difference in their salary line and fringe line. When it came to utilities, everybody's paying for the utilities. We don't have a meter for the fair or a meter for...
Just a pro rata, or just a split?
Yes.
25% split, or like a pro rata based on the number of days per year?
No, we just put it evenly
it's
across.
just in the background.
Because
Okay.
whether you're here or not, you got to pay electricity.
So one way you could look at that is you could say, all of our programs are getting close to profit or getting close to break even. I mean, your flea market, you're like within the delta, you're winning in corporate sales, you're losing in contracts. Maybe you need to put some resources against additional sponsorships, or obviously we know racing is a question mark. I mean, one way to look at it is the fair is being built over time, so it's okay to be in a deficit. But I just want to make sure we're not running heavy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I need you to figure out is like, are we running heavy, or is it that we are just in a loss position because we're only 2 years in? And we've got to figure that out, so we'll know whether this 1 million is going to stay red or it's going to turn to zero, or, you know, even positive. That's not really a question. That's just a statement.
You know, and I have something to that I would like to say, that as the fair grows and we get, more people to come and things like that, I think if it is something that stays in the red, that is something that we could present to budget as something that they subsidize as the city, because if everything else is in the black.
Right. Well, and I'd rather our subsidy be attached to a specific event than an overall.
Yes.
I mean, because in some ways, would the city be willing to pay $1 million to have a fair because it's required by the charter and the citizens want it? Maybe they do, but that's a really fair point.
Yeah.
I have one more question, if you don't mind. The new fee structure we voted on and you guys are implementing, is that reflected in these budgets?
Yes.
Okay, so that's after we've adjusted. That's what we're seeing, and maybe some of that is actually yielding some of the growth in the corporate sales line item, I would think. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
All right.
I also want to say that I know that that's a really big number, and the first thing someone wants to say is, well, just take the fair out. Then you guys will be good. You can't do that because you still have overhead. If you take the fair out, we're still at a $400,000 deficit.
Are there any other questions? No. Yes.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank Satrice and all our division managers. This was a Herculean feat to do 2 true-ups, to do the budget, and at the same time completely revamp how we do our accounting. And so thank you, Satrice, for all your work. I know I thought I was going to lose her there for a little bit, but one of the things that Satrice mentioned is we're going to continue to be able to tweak these numbers. I mean, we even talked this morning that I'm like, I have all these spreadsheets on my wall in my office. And so I just kind of look at them every so often, and you kind of can see, oh, maybe that's a line that maybe we want to look at a little bit closer. So I do see these improving every time we do them.
And is this the format we're going to get moving forward? Okay, great.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jasper. I have one more question. Apologies. Have you guys thought about breaking racing out? I mean, why is it grouped in? Like, ultimately, that's going to be a standalone program, wouldn't you imagine? What was the back and forth on that? Just curious.
Because it's a contract similar, it's a lease agreement similar to mixed use. It's contracts and agreements.
Because we're not the promoter, okay, so that's why you've got them. It might still be worthwhile to know. I guess since it's an all-in contract, you kind of don't control the expenses as much, so you grouped it there versus pulling it out. You don't have as many levers. All right, maybe so. Okay.
Todd, would you like to see it separated out?
You're the expert. I want y'all to tell us, because if you think it's better categorized there, you're looking at this all day. I'm just looking at it once a month. But I just wanted to ask the question.
All right.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Is that it for you? All right. Thank you. Next, we move over to personnel.
I have one quick update for that, just to give you a heads up on a project that we're working on that eventually we will be bringing to you for your consideration. We are updating our employee handbook. We updated it thoroughly in 2017. Is that right, Christy? 2017. The board adopted a new handbook. We are tweaking it. It has already been through Metro HR review with no problems. It is with legal right now. So as soon as we get those, we'll bring it to you. We'll go over it. We'll go over the changes. And then we'll have like a little working session during a board meeting. And then, hi, Councilmember Vo. And then we can, I wouldn't be looking for you to vote on it the day that we bring it to you. And then we'll just educate you on some of the policies that we have for our employees.
One thing we were talking about last meeting was just sort of oversight, and I don't think we need to have oversight, but if you would like someone to assist you in that project, I'm actually revising my company's handbook right now, so I'm willing to volunteer for that. If there are better uses of, because everybody else has volunteered for something, I need to volunteer for something. So if there's something better for me to volunteer for, that's fine.
Well,
but,
I think, to address that, I think it was going to come up a little later, because I was going to bring up what we had discussed at the last meeting. So, yeah, thanks. Next is operations.
You have the event schedule in your packet. If you have any questions on that, the one thing I do want to remember, we had a very excellent campus partner meeting. I think that was last week. That is when we coordinated the move-in to 445 Park Commons with the race, and also talked about access for the residents during the fair. So all that has been worked out with that team. And I did mention, or in your event packet, you'll see that we have 3.5 weeks of road closures that we are working with NDOT on. That is because of the fair. We are working with NDOT to do a detour plan and make sure our signage on Wedgwood and Craighead and Nolensville are appropriate, so we can detour our bike lane and our vehicle traffic during those road closures during the fair like we did last year.
Does NDOT have like a program with Google to put that in like Google Maps, Apple Maps? Do you know, do those closures show up online?
Good question. I don't know, but I can find out.
I figured Google might have like a national program with departments of transportation, maybe. Maybe. Anyway.
I know that one of our NIAC committee members works for Google, so I will ask him. And I also know that Dirk has an employee that is also very amazing at Google Maps, so I may have to check with Maddie to see if she knows as well. But we do have some resources that we can check with to see if they can enter in those temporary road closures.
Okay, so moving on to old business, and the item that we have here is consideration of merit increase for executive director, and the chair will entertain a motion to on this item.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that what is the motion? You just said so moved.
That's a fair point. I'll make a motion to recommend a merit increase for our director in the amount of 3% for discussion purposes. I'm putting it out there. So 3% merit increase. That's my motion.
I second.
It's moved and seconded that we approve a 3% increase. Discussion.
I read the email that Laura forwarded from Metro HR. I'm not an expert on this, but it seems like from reading the email that the city budget provides for a 3% pay increase for merit. And that's in addition to a 4% cost of living increase. They also said you're supposed to coordinate with HR to ensure pay equity. I don't really know about that, but I was just going to put the motion out there and then we could discuss, because obviously Laura sent her sort of summary of her work for the last year. So it seems like a 3% increase would be in line with sort of the scale, but I wanted to see if especially Jasper, but anyway, if we had any thoughts on, like, sorry, Laura, we're just going to talk about you right in front of you. Like, do we want to go with what Metro HR is sort of suggesting is the range, or how should we go about this?
So in my discussions with HR is that because we have, as a body, have not set any benchmarks for the director, that we go with what is recommended because it's already been budgeted. And to my understanding, starting July 1, it was already been allocated and been received. So, and that what we're doing now is just retroactive. And that is what I was, this part of my discussion earlier about the personnel manual is that, I'm glad you sort of volunteered for the manual, but I was going to also see if we can go ahead with establishing the personnel committee so that we can begin to set benchmarks. So that way, when we do have these discussions, we can actually have something that we say, okay, yes, this is what we discussed, and this is what was decided on as goals for the fairgrounds, because we can't do that now and say, oh, well, you didn't meet, well, we were in a deficit. Well, it wasn't something that we discussed that where we would not have any deficits. So we can't really grade on that because it wasn't part of, any goals that was set before. So pretty much our vote, our discussion here is just perfunctory because it's already been established, it's already been set across Metro that employees will get this raise, will get this.
We're able to vote in June on this?
Correct.
I think that's a great idea, Jasper. I mean, number one, I'll volunteer for that. Number two, whenever we get to it, I think I would look to Laura to propose. I mean, she's the executive here. Propose what the benchmark should be, and then we can grade against that. And I think that's a very wise way to go about it.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Here none. The call for the vote. All in favor of the merit increase of 3%, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Retroactively,
Aye.
Do we want to make a motion for this subcommittee, or how do you want to do that?
Yeah, so as discretion of the chair to create the committee. So thank you for volunteering, and I would actually ask Commissioner Owens to work with you on that as well.
Are we allowed to do that? Can we meet together?
Two? Yeah, you're a part of a committee. Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't need to be a public meeting or anything?
Well, yeah, it would have to be yes, you would have to advertise for your meetings in public.
Yeah, two commissioners cannot meet together outside of a public meeting to discuss board matters or any items that might come up on the agenda.
Gotcha. Well, a couple things. We could make it more like a single person and then bring the item back since it's a standing item on the report versus having a whole nother public meeting.
Well, when you say public meeting, it means you just have to notify. You can meet in the library, and just as long as you say we're having a meeting and people are welcome to attend.
Does somebody do that for us? I don't know how to do that. How do we do it?
Write a letter.
How many days
Send
in
a-
you have to know?
Chair, may I? I mean,
Yes.
you can contact the Metro Clerk's office and they can put it on the website notifying, on the Fairgrounds meeting that there would be a subcommittee of the Fair Board meeting at such date and such time, but would have to be properly noticed about 7 days in advance.
No, and that's something that the staff can help you with. They can, because she's going to send an email to the clerk as she normally does, and say that the subcommittee is meeting.
Any venue that we decide to meet at, any venue that we decide to meet at, we probably need to get clearance through them as well.
Laura, do you have a venue available that we can meet at?
Depends on the date and time.
I mean, it is not that difficult to get a room at the library. We have several in the city. So we have,
We're gonna meet at the Monroe Library downstairs. I will let you know the dates, Todd.
Jasper, I'll volunteer to be the chair of the subcommittee, and I'll organize and get with you, Anthony, to organize.
Erica, if I could ask a logistical question, because I know Christy and I are going to be essentially managing the subcommittee like we do these meetings. Two members can vote, and that satisfies. Does any quorum rules, just so we know for when we set it up?
Is this going to be a voting subcommittee, or is it?
No, they have to bring items back to the body. We have to, and for anything to happen, you have to have 3 members of this board in order to approve anything. So, I mean, that's in the bylaws. That's in the stats. So
I think they can meet just for discussion purposes only, no action items. It would just be discussion in a public forum. Okay, for the record, can you just describe what the subcommittee is going to be doing?
They're going to be establishing protocols and looking at, first of all, my first assignment will be a form to fill out for evaluation, a staff evaluation form. That will be one thing, coming up with, what something and making recommendations for that. Because they have one on the HR website, but there's not one specifically for us. There's one that they say that you can use as a recommendation, but they also encourage that. They also say that we can come up with our own. And there's also so that's one thing. The other one is recommendations on taking all of the information that we have have received as a body and figuring out what's the best way to have conduct evaluations of the director, because that's who we are, that's who we sort of oversee, but there is no established protocol. So making recommendations to us as what that process should be.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to understand for myself. So I think that as long as you two discuss all these things in person at an open meeting, it's fine. But remember that email communications are covered by the Open Records Act as well. So you can't email things back and forth to each other. You'll have to, present drafts at the meetings and those kinds of things as well. Now, Commissioner Hartley could send an email to Director Womack and Ms. Harris, and they could send it out. And same for you, Commissioner Owens. You could write to them, but you can't write to each other. But I think this should be fine as long as it's all done publicly and transparently.
Yeah.
Who can be on the committee?
You want to be on the committee?
No, I'm just asking for people who want to know. Like,
I think Jasper's describing it as a subcommittee, so it would be from the commissioners. So it'd be between the 4 of us. We could be on the committee. So I think that's why he suggested Anthony, because that's one of the other available people.
I didn't know.
That's a good question. You wanna? No, I'm just like. All right, so,
I'm sorry, Jasper. One other question. Do you have any timelines you want us to think about? I mean, obviously, we'll have a meeting and work on it, but what do you think?
I would think by the maybe about October board meeting. I mean, it'll be whatever you guys, what you recommend, But and then And then I was just working with, talking with HR, and figuring out what they would recommend, as well. But
No, I think that's great, and I think it's absolutely appropriate for us to have a good metric, and I'm sure Laura would make her life easier to know what she's going to be graded against, so there wouldn't be any confusion. So we'll get together, we'll put together a plan to evaluate the executive director, also look at the handbook, which may be on a faster timeline. I know you guys have a different timeline. We'll take that into consideration, and then we'll bring back our recommendations to the board.
So who evaluates personnel? Laura does?
I evaluate my direct reports, which are the division managers, and the division managers evaluate each one of their staff members. And we use the approved HR performance evaluation tools that are provided. Jasper mentioned that they're on the website.
all right.
Backtracking just a minute, we represent NDOT as well, so I sent a message to ask about whether NDOT works with Google to report closures.
What is that?
It says, yes, we work with Google and report closures, and they coordinate this through the Traffic Management Center.
All right.
Look at that. And you also do logistics. That's great.
That's the question would be how much time you have to give them in order for it to be. How much lead time will you have to give them?
Okay.
Oh, so next will be consideration of a memorandum of understanding with the Sports Authority to request a contract extension with Bell Construction to add extended maintenance for constructed infrastructure. The chair will entertain a motion to begin discussion on this item.
I move to approve this memorandum of understanding.
I second. Do we need
Discussion. Yeah, so Director Womack.
I'll give you a brief kind of just why we are doing this, just a reminder. We've talked several times about having an extended maintenance agreement for the infrastructure that was constructed to support the MLS stadium. The reason why we're doing an MOU with the Sports Authority is when the soccer project was originally approved, part of that process involved going to council and them approving a whole packet of contracts and capital funding for the project. $25 million was allocated to the Sports Authority to construct infrastructure, which was improvements to Benton and the extension from Benton Avenue from Bransford to Wedgwood, and the extension of Wedgwood Avenue from Rains to Craighead. One of the things that we have discovered over time is that there was no extended maintenance plan attached to the project. So when it was turned over, and then of course COVID and everything like that, we recognized this deficiency in the extended maintenance, and so this remedies that. So because the contract with Bell Construction was procured by the Sports Authority, only they have the power and the authority to extend the agreement, both for a couple reasons. One is that the end of this extended maintenance agreement takes us to 2027, and Bell's contract expires in 2026. So it goes beyond the 60 months, which is the limit for Metro contracts. That's one reason. The other reason is we are about $80,000 short on the value of the existing contract. So we need to increase the value of the contract by $80,000. Also, because the original contract package for the infrastructure in the stadium was all approved by Metro Council, we've been advised by Metro Legal that this contract extension should also go to Council. So we have worked on this MOU with the Sports Authority. It essentially asks, it's a formal request from the Fair Board to the Sports Authority to do those three things, with an understanding that the Fair Board will pay for the extended maintenance agreement, and they then will amend the contract with Bell to increase, and then we'll take it to council if both boards approve the MOU and the Sports Authority approves the contract extension.
So I understand all the transactional stuff. My main question, the main concern I have that Laura and I've talked about, and sorry, Lindsay, Dirk, you may have to stand up. Like, my main concern is that we come to this is just Benton and Wedgwood, and I want to think about like a holistic maintenance plan for the entire campus and how we're all working collectively to make sure the standards across the campus are sort of equivalent and that it looks good as a whole. So my question is for us to think about is, number one, I think we should probably do this. I'm taking your advice on that. But I also don't want to do this if it blocks us from developing a longer-term holistic solution, working with all of essentially our tenants on the city's land. So what is that situation? Is this going to is this just sort of giving us the runway to get that put in place? Or is this sort of preventing us from creating more of a holistic solution?
No, I like your analogy with the runway. This is the runway to get us there. We've had meetings both with Nashville SC, Lindsay, and Dirk about coming together and how we establish our expectations for how the entire property is maintained. And this just buys us a little bit of time to maximize our warranties on the constructed work that is happening right now, because it's not just Benton and Wedgwood. It is Fair Park Phase 1, which Parks maintains. It is Fair Park Phase 2, which we're also going to do an extended maintenance agreement on. It's Fair Plaza and Coliseum Way, which we'll have an extended maintenance agreement on. What it does is that it establishes the steps and also educates us and our partners on what we're looking at, because when you look at the type of work, it's not just mowing the lawn. It is pruning and shrubs and pre-emergent applications and mulching and dormant evaluations of all our trees. I mean, it's very extensive. So we also have quite a bit of stormwater management structures that none of us are really used to, that we have to learn how to maintain those. So we have to make sure outfalls are clear and bioretention is functioning appropriately. Permeable pavers, they're great because they're permeable pavers, but they take maintenance. So part of this is a little bit of a learning curve and giving us time to really understand the structures that we have and then how to maintain them, agree to that level of care that we all want to see on campus, and then put a comprehensive program together. So that was a very long answer to say, yes, Todd, this gives us a little bit of a runway to put a comprehensive plan in place with our partners.
I mean, this is 40 months. I mean, that's a long time. So, I mean, it's not a little bit. I mean, this is a long time. So that's my main, when I saw it. Well, and Therese, is this money budgeted in our budget? Is this our money that we're spending? The $285K that's in this MOU?
This is capital.
Okay, so that's capital, but is it still a capital, like an earmarked capital account?
Yes.
All right. So it's not messing with our operating, which is my main concern, but it is our capital money. I mean, it's hard to negotiate in public, but like Lindsay and Dirk, like what are your expectations for your fans, tenants? Like, we're talking about trying to maintain the property. This is obviously in your interest for us to take this expense and do it for the next 40 months, but do you have any concerns or thoughts about this? Bob, you can weigh in too if you want. Somebody go ahead, Dirk. You're the leader.
Well, I don't know about that, Commissioner, but yeah, I mean, this is a world-class facility, and Geodis Park is beautiful. Our stuff we think highly of, and so we're equally as motivated and aligned with this body to maintain this world-class standards. And so I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Womack. I mean, the runway that we need to really establish the means and methods and protocols to improve the property and to keep it looking 100% is absolutely the right path forward, and we'll be participating in that along the way 100%.
What steps are we taking to move towards a comprehensive plan? Like what, I mean, I know we're talking, but like what milestones can we look for? Because again, like I just am concerned that we're going to create sort of ad hoc solutions along the way rather than going to a comprehensive maintenance plan for the facility. So is there something we can look for, Laura, in the next year of like, we're going to have this in place? Can you give me some thoughts on that?
I think that's fair. I think the other big piece is what's going to happen with the Speedway, and the other piece is where are we going to be with any other additional construction and our mixed-use blocks? Because clearly we have two more that are going to be, we don't have a final design. We don't know what those look like. We don't know what type of infrastructure is going to be built with those that we have to consider. So this also gives us a little time to kind of work out some of those details of things that we don't know about. Plus, we're going to be under construction with both the Windgrove entrance and the Coliseum Way that is going to completely transform the back. So I know it sounds like a long time, but there's significant construction and redo of significant pieces of infrastructure and roadways here on campus that we're going to have to navigate as we put that plan together.
Yeah, you make a good point, and I feel like you remind me of something I said the other day, which is like we're in the middle of a construction period. It's a fair point. I mean, you got to rethink the timelines on this. So, I mean, I think I would be amenable to accepting this MOU and the similar ones that are coming forward as long as we have some type of marker in the ground of this is our long-term maintenance plan, and I want to get some kind of report or something from you in the next 9 to 12 months of what our roadmap is to a long-term solution. Because, again, I love our partners, but at some point, I want to make sure that we're having equal cost sharing and that we're not having either us freeload or any of the other partners freeload. We want to make sure we equally share that. So I would like to, I would support this with the additional action of having the director come back with a holistic plan in the next 9 to 12 months. And I will amend my motion to reflect that if I'm allowed by the chair.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? All right, well, all those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by saying aye.
With a 9 to 12 month solution.
Yeah, and I think I'm just looking for like at least a plan presented to us in 9 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll go with plan, second with a plan. No solution. It's going to be tough to do a solution.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, this is what we plan to do.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right, and I'll vote aye.
Aye. So, I keep looking over to the right, and he's not here. So I'm like, so that's why I keep looking over there, because I'm like, oh, he's not here. Well, okay, so the motion passes. Thank you.
What did you say aye?
Yes, aye.
Okay,
I said aye. Yes.
Aye.
Yep. So the motion passes. Is there any other discussion before us?
Outside of the September board meeting. So
yes.
we will, we've gotten some availability. Originally, we were considering canceling it because of the fair and the intensity of that, but I do anticipate hopefully getting the MOU with transit drafted by then, because I really don't want to wait till October, and then the some other partnership things that I don't want to hold off another month. So we'll just be reaching out to everybody for just to confirm availability. My only thought is, though, if we do want to keep it on the original date, which I believe is the 10th, if we could do it earlier in the day, since the fair opens at 5, it's really hard to have a board meeting at 4 when we have open to the public.
I mean, I guess since most of us are here now, I mean, can we just get a consensus now? Yeah. So it's September 10th. It may be early for me too because the presidential debate is that night. So that'll be, the early. So, Commissioner Owens, how do you feel?
Yeah, we're allowed to do that. No problem.
What time do you think?
I'm up for coffee
anytime.
at 6. So
6.
Laura, would a morning meeting be better for your team that day?
Yes, and that assumes that and we'll check make sure legal and IT are available. But yes, we used to do our meetings at 8 a.m. So we're happy to do that. If that is, then you can do this meeting and then carry on with your day, if that works.
That works.
that works for me.
That works.
I'm available. I can move anything that day, so whatever time you want.
8 a.m.
All right. And we have coffee.
I will have coffee. And you know what? I'll bring bagels. I'll bring you something else.
Move to adjourn.
All right, it's been moved. Oh, yes, Councilmember Vo. Do you have anything that you would like to share with the body? You'll wait. All right, thank you.
I do want to thank Councilmember Vo. Thank you so much for all your work to support the fair. She did a wonderful, worked with council to do an invite to get council members. So thank you so much for that.
All right, it's been moved that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So thank you all.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.